we got on Thursday we came out with it was kind of a weird story that Buddy Thomas uncovered where the MIAA, which is always a controversial organization for us, they came out with this whole new idea for how to reorganize the entire football way football is basically done statewide. It's pretty radical. Laurie, I don't know what your take on it.
It's just right now. It's just a proposal.
Okay.
I mean, it's nothing that is official.
So it's something they're mulling over.
They're actually going to be voting on it. I guess they're going to be having a meeting November 9th, and then they're going to have a final decision December 2nd. Basically, what it's going to do is just dissolve all of the leagues. Old Colony League.
Football only, though,
yeah,
correct?
Football only. It's going to dissolve the Old Colony League, Big Three, South Coast Conference, EAC, everything. What it's going to do is every team is going to be, I guess, basically, their first 7 games for football are going to be determined by the, the
enrollment of the school, right?
Well, it's the male population and a multiplier system, which the multiplier system.
Anytime you bring math in there, you're in trouble.
Yeah, like right here, private schools are going to have a multiplier of 1.3. That means that Bishop Stang, if they have an enrollment of 1,000 boys,
yep,
their adjusted realignment, I guess,
so
population is going to be 1,300.
Okay, and so this is a way, but I mean, it's a way to keep all the schools against comparable sized schools.
Yeah, and it's based on geographics where the schools are located.
Okay.
So that's also something that plays into the I guess the figuring out of who plays who for games. So that's going to be the first 7 games, and then every year those opponents are going to rotate. So the first 7 teams you saw, and I think if this actually passes, it'll be 2011.
Okay.
So let's say New Bedford High, the first 7 teams they see in 2011 are not going to be the first 7 teams that they see the following year. It'll rotate. I think they're trying to break it down 16 teams per size category.
Per size category. So you're still going to be playing against your teams that are like if you're a South team, you're not going to be playing a team north of Boston. You're going to be playing teams from.
Well, I mean, what Buddy basically broke down was that New Bedford, I mean, this is pretty bad news for New Bedford. What it would do is because they're one of the bigger schools for population, is it would probably have them playing Boston College High, Xaverian, and who was the other one? St. John's Prep, which they did that in 2002, and that year they went 3-8.
Yeah, I mean, I know that in talking to Dartmouth, where one of the reasons that they're able to be so strong is because they have high turnout rates, whereas New Bedford, yeah, they get a lot of male students, but they don't have a high turnout rate for sports.
No,
so I mean, it's just.
Yeah, and I know the South Coast Conference, they've always been really strong, and a lot of the teams that started in the South Coast Conference 24 years ago are still there, and there's a lot of rivalries that would break all of those rivalries up. You would still get to keep your Thanksgiving Day game, against whoever that is, and then the week before Thanksgiving, that game you could decide who you wanted to play then.
The week before Thanksgiving that they normally don't play a game now.
Well, I mean
the
game before, I guess it's 2 weeks before Thanksgiving.
Okay.
That game you would have open, and then you would have what they basically are saying in these 16 team size categories.
These little groups.
Eight will make the playoffs. So those 8 teams that make the playoffs, the next game after Thanksgiving, they'll be able to compete. I don't know how they'll break it down, but they'll compete. And then the teams that don't make the playoffs have to schedule on the fly somebody to play that week.
Okay. So basically what you're telling me.
Why would you take away from the playoff game, though?
Well, because those teams have to have a certain number of games in there.
Why wouldn't they just not play games that week?
So
basically what you're telling me is this is pretty wacky.
Is this something that they've just created, or is this based on a model that other states have used?
Yeah, I'm not sure about that.
I don't know about that. They basically came up with this idea in May, but nobody's really talked about it.
Yeah, it's something that came out in May and didn't really cause much ruckus. I don't think so. Maybe it's something that is going to get out there more and more. I expect that we're going to have some kind of continuing coverage of this in the Standard Times over the next couple of weeks as we see what these teams are reacting to, and it's going to be interesting to follow. But I mean, I know that one of the big concerns is, is it gonna mean for more travel costs for the schools? I mean, when it seems like right now it's
there's no money for them.
there's no money for them to travel now, let alone have New Bedford travel
too.
to.
Put user fees up through the roof for schools that charge.
Yeah, I mean, it does sound. I mean, it's intriguing. It sounds fun to have, like, hey, you got playoffs. So we got 8 teams, and you have 3 rounds of playoffs. I mean,
well, and then they keep, the MIAA keeps saying, like, this is going to have a real state champion. That's what they think. That's the big deal. That's the big deal, and then more teams and more student athletes are going to be able to make it to the playoffs for football. But I mean, I gotta say there's got to be a better way to do it than this.
Couldn't you have a real state champion just by taking all the division winners and having them play each other?
Yeah, this makes no sense. I mean, this is just wacky. I mean,
you could add one more day of football and have a true state champion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. We're unanimous in saying that the MIAA's what's it called, the ad hoc committee. If you're listening to ad hoc committee, I think it's time to go back to the drawing board on this one.
Yeah, I mean, it's great trying to get more teams in the playoffs, because it really seems like it's not fair. Not many football teams make the playoffs.
That's not why they want more teams in the playoffs. They want more teams in the playoffs because they charge through the roof for people to attend these games, and they want to increase how many people are going to these games.
If
I was any school that was involved with a football program that would be affected by this in any negative way, I'd withdraw from the MIAA.
Everybody is affected. That's the thing.
And they said they also said
I'm talking there's schools involved that don't have football programs that are part of the MIAA.
But according to Buddy's story, also it's like you cannot take part if you don't. It's just it's a mess.
Yeah,
I mean,
and then they say if you don't take part in it, then you just won't ever be able to play for a Super Bowl.
Oh, okay. Well, that seems fair.
I'm a huge South Coast Conference guy, and I have been.
Yeah.
And I don't want to see go away what's been built there, and what should be kind of a model for how other leagues work, where instead of just building teams the way they want to build them, they build them to compete with the other teams in the league.
Yeah,